Um, okay. So thanks again for, taking some time to meet with me and share more about the work that you're doing in Spokane.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we start with your background, what brought you here, all of that good stuff.
Okay. So I'm from Wenatchee, Washington. Born in Kirkland, Washington. I moved over to Spokane in 2011 to get my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in studio art. But I originally started in the forensic science program and led up to the art program. Um, my love for art has always been consistent. In forensics, I wanted to actually become a missing persons artist. And so helping build those profiles and help with any building as far as like ceramics to help with, let's see, how do I describe this process? So like if you were to take a skeleton, for example, and you're trying to figure out what they look like, adding clay and modeling to create that image so you can find that person. That's really what got me interested in the arts. And then the further along I made it in the art department over at Eastern, I fell in love with story and film and really just expanded on that. So after I graduated, I started working for an arts nonprofit here in Spokane called the Alliance for Media Arts and Culture. And I've been doing their social media and helping produce local documentary film events for that represent underrepresented communities. And the more I worked with that work, I really found in me my need to help BIPOC communities and underrepresented communities heal and be nurtured through story and culture and community. So I've always been in love with community, but unfortunately back home I didn't find that. And so when I made Spokane my home, have had both my children here, born and raised. Um, this is where I landed, and I'm proud to be here. So right now I'm working on numerous projects. I am the director of the Root Experience Festival, this is our pilot year for that. And that's coming up on August 26th and 27th. And for the festival, really it's just reiterating the amplifying BIPOC and underrepresented voices that are here in Spokane that maybe are seen here and there, but are not. The community itself is split, and we wanted to find a way as a team to bring everybody together and appreciate all cultures and backgrounds at once. So creating that equal platform for everybody to be there and celebrate and nurture that healing and growth was really important for us to bring here to Spokane. So it's really exciting for us to have that going. But let's see here. I'm trying to think of all the things I do.
Yeah, well,
I'm
I want to go back to a couple of things because I
Mhm.
also I'm not from Spokane, and so like I also relate to you finding your community here versus your like home city. I'm from Sacramento, and I've been here about a decade now. And I did find a community here that I didn't find in Sacramento. So I really resonate with that. And I do want to talk about that, like that path what you took from forensics to art, because it's really specific, but it's so interesting, and I can definitely see how they relate to each other. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I also would love to learn more about, like that side of your, advocacy work and your professional work, because I know that you also are involved with the Domestic Violence Coalition.
Mhm.
And so I would love to just hear more about that part of your work.
Okay. So I really enjoy consulting with nonprofits, whether it's an art nonprofit, social justice, whatever the case, as long as their mission is creating healing or prevention, or helping communities, heal and celebrate who they are and not detract from, all the needs that are in place in this community that need to be happening. So I just took my leave from the Spokane Regional Domestic Violence Coalition this week to really further along my business, which is Mama Wolf Media, LLC. And within that, I am the festival director, and that unfortunately overwhelmed me. And so I needed to take my leave to be able to, figure things out and help other clients as well with their needs. But the Spokane Regional Domestic Violence Coalition holds a special place in my heart. And I really want to help them in the future after I'm not as overwhelmed. But working for them it was a blessing, to be honest. I come from a background of familial molestation and abuse and PTSD from a previous relationship through my daughter. And having that space to be able to help victims of violence meant more to me than anything in the world. It really helped solidify a lot of my personal needs and helping community members heal. So again, just always relying on that mission and intention of the work that I put forth. And I know that the domestic violence here in Spokane in particular is really high. And I'm so glad that there's community members here and organizations that are helping heal those communities. I don't know if I just answered your question or not.
Yeah, definitely.
And then as far as, oh yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I am still pursuing advocacy work and domestic violence in particular, and various social justice instances as well. So I'm always reaching out to different organizations, seeing where I can lend a hand as far as like the NAACP, SCAR Spokane. I'm always thinking of different ways that I can help either move their story along, help promote with marketing, and help with graphics, help photograph different events that they put on so the community is seeing what they're actually doing. And it's a joy to see. Honestly, when I first moved to Spokane in 2011, I had no idea what was going on in these fields. And after I graduated in 2018, I really wanted to use my skills in storytelling and film and different aspects of those to really expand on those stories that I want to be seeing in our community be heard. And so being able to help these orgs and nonprofits with that is it's really exciting and really personal to me and my values. With forensic science in particular, my dad is ex-Marine, ex-cop from South Carolina. So he's been up to Canada. He was a Mountie. He was a correctional officer. I felt like my brain was going that route. And so I went into the forensic science program, but I wanted to put my artistic twist on it and figure out if there was a way that I could blend those. So I really dove into biochemistry and kind of feeling those fields out. And when I found the art department, it was like, oh, I can do this through film. I can do this through art. I don't have to just fit into one sector. There's multiple ways and mediums that I can do this and help our community grow and tell their stories individually. And so that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's really great. Here at the Y, we also are seeing like the importance and the value of storytelling, and helping people feel comfortable and safe to tell their story, because it is really powerful. I would like to just kind of learn more about, like what really resonates with you when it comes to storytelling, and what, if you have, like any kind of like what you hope to achieve when you do go into these projects, with other people and organizations.
Right. Well, storytelling in particular, I see it as an intrinsic human instinct, right? And the influence of it itself is it helps our evolutionary process within ourselves move along. So anything that feeds into our story is helping us become either a better person, helps with personal growth, self-care, self-healing. So really that's where storytelling is important to me, is that it's something that humans have always been curious about and have held, but sometimes it's not particularly fitting the needs of the orgs or the individuals who are telling the story. And sometimes the people who are hearing those stories aren't giving them the value and respect that they need when they are telling them. So me placing myself in these situations, and on these projects, that's my goal, is to make sure that when people are telling their stories, or I'm helping them develop their stories for their branding, for their business, that they're being true to their values, their intentions, and if their culture is a main aspect of it, I want to make sure that everything is equal and thriving in that sense. I want to make sure that they're seeing themselves through the work and graphics that I'm creating for them, through the bios, through the resumes, through the websites. I help with kind of a wide range of things, but just again, helping those individual organizations that, may be lacking in that area. Like, who are we actually? Like, what is our mission? And how can I actually put this in words or in imagery? So helping people go through that and brainstorm that is it's really special for me to be a part of.
I really like that. As someone who also, like didn't really see themselves, growing up in these different mediums, and like wanted to see more representation, yeah, I really like, I feel that, I think it's just like so important to not only have that representation, and get people used to seeing, people that are not like them, but
Right.
I think it's also been a struggle. I think we put a lot on the first blank of color of like anything, like whether it's the first Indigenous TV show or the first all Black cast of a movie. We put a lot on them to be everything, and that's really hard. Like how do you, through your work and your art, show those like complexities and like that spectrum, like these people of color can, be anything.
Yeah. So being a multidisciplinary visual artist, through my work that I exhibit at galleries and through events and sell, my main story, being a mom and coming from a mixed cultural background. So my mom is Italian and my dad is Black and Native, Blackfeet and Cherokee. And so I grew up mainly with my Italian side, because my parents got divorced at an early age. And when they got remarried in 2007, it was like this whole new world opened up to me, right? Like my mom's side of the family didn't really talk about my dad and expand on that side of our ethnicity or self in general. He was always the do not talk about person. And having him back in our life really helped me and my sister in particular find ourselves in more of a meaning and deeper way. So through our artwork, we're noticing as we get further along in our careers that, you know, our intentionality throughout it all and focusing on culture is so important, because that's a piece that we didn't have for so long. And so we're finding more and more about ourselves through our artwork. And me in particular, I make various mediums, but I have this series going, and my daughter is in a couple of them. My fiance is in one of them. It really just encompasses my overall values and basically diving into all the different realms that I like to be in. So I find myself out in nature constantly. I'm a 24/7 mother, so like I have a 2.5-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and they're fully fully in my life. You know, like no free time at all, and I love it because you know, we get to play off of each other in different ways. We make art together. We talk through things. We just talk about kind of the random things in life and what to expect, and talk about culture. As my daughter gets older, she's been more fascinated in her culture and what it means to be a BIPOC person. And her being able to see herself in a gallery in one of my pieces for the first time was such a bizarre event. She was like, "Are we famous?" Like, I don't know, maybe Spokane famous. We could say that, I suppose. But it's just so special for her to see, and me being able to tie in beadwork and drawing and digital art and photography, all these different mediums to say what's on my mind and through my experiences, and really engulf in my spirit as who I am, has just been so special, because I feel like growing up I wasn't really able to do that. And so being able to touch on my personal experiences through these different mediums, it's really just blown my mind, you know, as years go on, just having this platform and being able to amplify voices that are dealing with similar situations. You know, they feel like they're not being heard. They feel disconnected from their homeland because maybe they grew up in the city, but that's still who you are. You're still part of that culture. You're still a part of that community. Just because you left to, you know, pursue school or a job doesn't mean you're not a part of that community. So yeah, finding any possible way to amplify BIPOC voices, underrepresented voices, people who feel like just inadequate, you know, in their own life, and they want to pursue more, and I want to help them find that place. I kind of went into
yeah, no, that's, I mean, it is a really good reminder, especially, you know, for someone who, you know, did move away and has that kind of like internal struggle. You know, I like, for me, being the daughter of like immigrant parents from, you know, from the Philippines, there's this discourse, you know, going on between, and it probably happens in other cultures, you know, oh, you're not Filipino enough, you don't know the language, you didn't learn it growing up. So I definitely have that struggle, and I was born in California. So I feel that disconnect as well, you know, having been to the Philippines maybe a handful of times. It is like being stuck between different worlds, you know, and how do you make yourself feel a part of all of them?
Yeah, it's almost like an imposter syndrome, right? You feel like you're a part of it, but there's something underlying that's not quite right. Like you don't feel fully involved. And I definitely resonate with that as well, because growing up with my mainly Italian family, they came in as immigrants as well. And so I saw that piece of my history. But through my dad, his dad was a sharecropper down in South Carolina, and his mom picked cotton, and that was what they did together. Like, they couldn't afford the minimal of necessities, and they were told to help take care of the farm and find a job and, you know, make more of yourself and find a good career, so then you can get out of, you know, that need of not having food sustainability or financial sustainability. So that's something that my dad has always taught me, was to be true to who I am, whether it's culture, whether it's your spirit, whether it's what you want to do for work or education. Just make sure you're doing it with intentionality and that your spirit is heavily involved, because like, this life is short, right? You can pinpoint everything that you're not doing right, or things that you want to get out in life, but being in the moment is the most important. And helping the communities around you that you see are suffering. So that's really what my drive is to do, is to help those communities, as well as myself, through self-healing and through my experiences and traumas, I guess, overall, because we all have those. No matter what, we all hold aces in our pockets, and we have to find ways to uplift our spirits and continue on this path, whichever path that may be.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Really well said. I would like to shift now and talk about this festival. This is kind of a big deal, you know, especially for Spokane. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, definitely. So the Root Experience Festival is a 2-day festival focusing on art, music, and storytelling, and also film. Through this festival, we are promoting and amplifying voices in our community, in our BIPOC community, that are in the arts. And we wanted to make sure that we're celebrating living cultures, right? These are not cultures that we're constantly, because we do read into the history aspects of all cultures, and we want to make sure that we're living in the moment and telling the stories as they're being lived. And really celebrating community as well is it's our high point, because we want to make sure throughout the year, as there's months that are specified on certain cultures. I mean, I love that as well, but we need a uniform event that all cultures are involved and celebrated. Like, it just needs to happen. And especially in Spokane, I feel that although Spokane is becoming more progressive in areas, it's still on the conservative level, and it doesn't support BIPOC peoples and underrepresented peoples in this community as much as it should. Like, there's so many refugee families, immigrant families, you know, BIPOC families that are suffering and need to be heard. And having this equal platform and creating it for them to be able to tell what's on their mind and their personal experiences is truly profound. All of the performers involved, vendors and filmmakers, they all have unique experiences and perspectives, and to be able to have them all in one space is it's insane. Every day as we are going through the planning stages, and we just released our official selections, there's just so many ideas and creativity and just uniqueness throughout. And to have it here in Spokane, where it doesn't typically happen all at once, is pretty crazy. But we're all excited about it, and the venues involved have been super helpful. So day one on August 26th, we'll start at A Place of Truth Plaza across from the Spokane Public Library downtown. And that space in particular, it is really important to the Spokane tribe and tribal peoples here in Spokane. It's a it's a gathering space, really is what it is. It's a cultural space where you can feel elevated naturally just through walking through it. It's right there on Spokane River, so it has that connection to the river. And it's also made by Spoker Marchand and Jeff Ferguson. Those are the lead artists that created the space. And Smoker, he passed not, I want to say about half a year ago now. He passed away. And so having the opening ceremony commence in that space is really important to the family. And I feel the community needs to be in that space as well to be able to hear his story and his place here, because he's made so many different sculptures around town and over on the res, and to have him highlighted even after the fact, you know, as a master creator is just, it's really special. So we'll be having an opening ceremony with song, prayer, land recognition. We'll have a drum circle. And then after that, we'll be weaving through that space over to the library across the street. And we'll go up on the 3rd floor where we'll have films, we'll have food, we'll have conversation, we'll have music. So it's a mixture of things. We want to dive into any medium as we possibly can, revolving around storytelling and how we can actually create that space. We'll also have dancers as well at that event. And then on day 2, we'll go over to the Magic Lantern in the Saranac Commons. Over at the Saranac Commons, we'll have musical performances. Right in between, as you cross over to the Magic Lantern, there's a courtyard. We'll have vendors posted up there. We'll also have vendors right in front of the Magic Lantern in that kind of foyer. And then at the Magic Lantern, we'll have all day films being projected on both screens. So it's really just engulfing each space and utilizing it to the best of its capabilities. But again, all the vendors, all the performers, all the filmmakers are BIPOC communities, and holding that space is just, I don't have words to fully describe how that feels. And to help facilitate that, it's just really beautiful. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that's
okay.
it just sounds like really wonderful. And I'm really excited for it. I know we touched a little bit, you know, on some gaps that Spokane has and what they could do better. What was like the moment where this turned from something that, you know, Spokane needs into like, let's do it, you know?
Yeah. So back in 2019, myself and James Pacotis from the Colville Confederated Tribes, we were co-producing this event over at the Garland Theater, and it's an all-Native event. We're working alongside the Alliance for Media Arts and Culture, who was presenting it. We showed the film Rumble, the Indians Who Rock the World. And within that documentary, we also had land recognition, we had prayer, we had drum circle, all the performers that were there, that were, sorry, lost my train of thought. All the performers that were there were all Native performers. We had a few vendors there that were Native. So like really paying attention to that overall arc of we are celebrating Native community and culture. You know, bring your family, bring your friends. We're all here to celebrate this and enjoy the space. That event in particular blew our minds. We did not imagine the turnout that was going to be there. We did not imagine the full-on tears that would break us down hearing the music, and you know, the families see their family up there on stage performing and see their culture through what we're doing. So we wanted to have another event like that, but of course COVID came, we had to put that on pause, and so now we brought that back into the fold. And early last year, we ended up producing another Native event. But then we thought, well, so James is Native, I'm a mixture, Native, Black, Italian, CS, or Devonte Pearson, as he's most commonly known as. He's Black. And then we also have Jazz Boyd, who is Black as well. And so we wanted to find a way to engulf all cultures and as well as resonate on our own. And so BIPOC Festival really made sense to us because we're not pinpointing just one culture or couple. We're expanding to the whole community, and therefore the whole community is presented and they feel like they're being uplifted because they are, because they're all being accepted into the fold, and will have that same platform to tell their story and experiences, and not having that particular just singled out culture was really important to us, because being the name of this festival is the root experience. We wanted to derive the stories from everybody's cultures within this community. So really paying attention to history, upbringing, family, and the beauty that runs, you know, throughout, and all the various, you know, or I guess you can say similar or differences that are kind of a common thread, right, throughout all of our stories and myths. And so this was really just the way we found that engulfs that entire thing. And it just made sense. There was like a light switch that came on and we couldn't turn it off, and then we were just going and like, oh yeah, we need this, we need to do this. And eventually it's this whole festival, and you know, all these different connections and stories within it kind of turned into a beast, and it's here to stay.
Sorry, that's like how it happens, right? It just it's this thing at first, and then it becomes like bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're like, oh, okay, you know. I think that's great though. Yeah. You had mentioned you just released some information about the artist, or was it like the first day? Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about the artists that are featured?
Yeah, so we have 12 performers that will be coming out, as well as 12 films, and then I want to say around 15 vendors or so. But it's a mixture of culture again. So for the performers, we have Hawaiian performers, we have Black performers, we have Native, we have Asian. It's like we're really reaching out to the community to find every pocket possible. And unfortunately, that's hard for your first time having a pilot festival. You know, even when you put out the submission, you don't know exactly what's going to come back. And so once we got the commission or the submissions back and went through those, we found certain gaps. And within those gaps, we reached out to those cultures in the community to see if there are any performers or films or vendors that wanted to be involved. And of course there are, because everybody, you know, there's just so much uniqueness here. And yeah, so that's really the performers. It's a wide range of cultures. The vendors, it's the same way. In the films also, we have Canadian films because that's within our reach, and our main goal for this festival, alongside amplifying BIPOC voices, is to bring in the Pacific Northwest region and Canada in particular, because everything dealing with Canada and the borders and trying to erase the borders right now with the tribes that are involved, you know, their family, they grew up there and they were knocked down here to the US. And having that border in between, separating these families and going through these struggles and trying to find their homeland, we wanted to find a way to decolonize that and decolonize social practice and art practice. So being able to collaborate with Canadian artists as well and bring them down here was super important to us, because we're all, how do I put this in short words? we're all a part of this bigger picture, right? We've all had these struggles, being minorities in America under this capitalist society, and feeling that we don't belong here because that's what the media is doing to us. It's putting out that energy. It's telling us we don't belong. We saw it with the BLM uh, strikes and the marches. You know, there's so much force in America in particular to keep down minority communities that it's just, we need to have this space for artists in our community to perform and to tell their story, because it's so important. And it's just, there's no way around that. And to be able to have this decolonization factor in there and bring down Canadian artists and filmmakers as well that have family in our town and have that connection, it's just so special. It's a collaboration that has been a long time coming, and it's only going to grow from here.
That's really, wow. Yeah, that's really great. That's something that I don't think I knew about. And I think for me, but I think for a lot of Americans, we do view Canada as like, they got it good over there, like
right.
during the presidency that we won't talk about, we won't mention, like a lot of people saw that as like, I need to run away there. Like, it just seems so great over there. And we have all this struggle over here. But I think it is important to bring that up. And, there is a piece of Canadian history that is pretty involved in that and the Native communities. I hope that there are more opportunities to learn about that, because that seems pretty important as a continent.
Oh yeah, definitely. And no, you're completely right on that aspects. Canada is seen as like, it's really on this high level, we want to go there. They have better health care, all these different situations, but you got to realize there's the same type of capitalist society as we have down here. There's the same pressures on First Nation communities and on cultures that are up there. And they're still having those struggles. No matter if on the surface it looks pristine and beautiful, it's still happening. And the more we work with the Canadian artists and bring them down here, as we will more and more in the future, and for the next festival for next year, we're finding all these different threads that are, they're so close to us on the border. They feel so far away, but they're so close. And a lot of tribal communities down here, they go up to Canada to have certain ceremonies, like salmon ceremonies in particular, because that's their homeland, and being forced down here was not of their being. Yes, they dealt with that situation and they adjusted and found their home here, but being able to have that thread and bring those families down here is, oh man, it only makes sense to me.
Yeah. What is one thing that what's the thing you're most excited about this festival?
Oh, I would say, oh man, so many things. Meeting all of the artists involved in particular has been super exciting. As the festival grows traction in general, we're finding more media outlets and people and organizations around here being just excited overall about the event, which makes us excited because it's something that a lot of creatives around here have been wanting to see. And then us being able to bring this forward, and it's like actually happening, right? It's actually happening. And it's been a long run. But I'm so excited to meet everybody and to hear everybody's performances and stories and find out exactly what their stories are, because everybody has their own experiences and traumas and expressions and how they deal with self-healing and care and how they feel like they should be contributing to the community. So being able to brainstorm and level up on that and figure out ways we can continue to work together, right? Creating a sustainable creative economy here for BIPOC creatives and not just a one and done festival. We want to continue this through workshops and different trainings. James Pacotis and T.S. Pearson, they own Panoramic Dreams recording over here in Spokane, and they help artists here that are either hip hop artists, no matter the case, no matter the genre. They help them amplify their voice by recording their material and helping them put that out there into the world. And so really anything having to do with amplifying BIPOC voices is like, it's our jam, and we want to see ourselves in the community and our cultures in the community. So helping in any way possible do that it needs to happen. And it needed to happen years ago.
Sorry. Keep doing that. I fully agree. Definitely has been a long time coming. What is next for you and, for the founders of the festival after this inaugural one?
Yeah. So we'll be having workshops lined up. We want to help artists here, emerging and professional. It doesn't matter where you are on that in that range. We want to help you develop through different media programs. How can we create this promo for you that will get your voice out? How can we help you with these tools of learning Adobe programs and how to edit your own videos, all these different factors to help you create a sustainable business for yourself, and also help you have the tools and necessities that you need now, right, in this digital age to get your name out there. We're also working with the Alliance for Media Arts and Culture to put on different workshops within that. They have this program called Arts to Work Apprenticeship Program, and it's one of the most, I've never seen anything quite like it, because honestly, I don't think anything exists in the apprenticeship world with media arts. They're one of the first nationally known accredited programs that does that. And bringing it to Spokane is something that we've always wanted to do, but of course, funding is always strange and has its own routes and complications and all those things. So that's really our next step after the festival, is bringing those workshops to Spokane and finding youth to professional creatives here to be able to take those workshops and reach out to businesses to help. So once the people go, or the creatives go through the trainings, they'll get an apprenticeship certificate, and we will link up with different businesses in our community that will take them on as apprentices. And so being able to have a job outside of this training, like right off the bat, is a beautiful relationship, because it just doesn't happen, right? You have to go get your degree. You have to prove. There's always proving yourself and what you can do and your abilities to all these different organizations and people that you want to work for, right? And we're trying to figure out a way to get over that, because these people they've already proved it. They're working towards it, and they're creating all these necessities and tools and really getting those needs met to where when they do come out into the community, they can just start. It doesn't need to be this, oh, let's see if they got this for about a year. Let's see if they can do this for a couple months. Once they are out of the program, they can go straight into the business and help with the needs that that business has, but using their own artistic abilities and values to further that.
That is kind of genius.
It's so exciting. It's like
That's
there's so
amazing.
many.
I'm excited for all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. One last question. I want to go back to something that you had said earlier. How do you like practice, self-healing and self-care while doing all of this? That is, wonderful, taxing, not enough hours in the day. And, it's just hard existing, right? As like a person of color. Like you don't even have to go out of the house, and there's just this kind of like weight that it can, be there, be very noticeable. So how do you kind of get through all of that and keep your sanity?
It's a question I ask myself all the time, actually. How do I keep my sanity? So through all these projects that I find, again, pushing on my values and intention, making all these different connections, that's one of my major self-healing, self-soothing actions, is making sure that I'm constantly involved in community. I didn't have that back in Wenatchee. I had it kind of on a base level, as a young kid would with their friends, but not an overall aspect. I didn't feel like I was even, on the radar. My culture wasn't there being seen. People didn't know what my ethnicity was. So coming to Spokane and having that, and really embracing that portion of myself, I find that beadwork, if I'm constantly working on beadwork, that's it's such a therapeutic, you can just space out and just do it. It's so nice. That's really, I'll stay up to high hours too, 2 a.m. I'll be working on beadwork just to get through my frustrations of the day. I also take my kids out, into nature and work on artwork, and, all just being around my family in general is another self-soothing piece for me. I have my parents here, my sister, my nephew, my kids, my fiance, and then he has his family here. So always being involved in family is another way to nurture that space as well. Yeah, I would say those are my main things, is always, diving into nature, family, working on beadwork and art, and always reaching out to the community to see if there's somehow I can help, whether it's with Native events, Black events, or anyone else. It doesn't matter. I want to be of help in some way or another. And it's really healing for me to feel a part of community, but not only that, just know that I'm helping in any way possible to my ability. Even though I'm exhausted, I'm I'm okay. and it's really enriching to be able to have all these different special ways to self-soothe and create more, really nurture the spirit, I guess, in a sense. Yeah.
That's really lovely. Olivia, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share more about your work and yourself. It was really lovely to chat with you.
Oh, appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know I blabber on quite a bit because I get so passionate about it, and I'm like, wait, go back to your train of thought.
that's what I like. If I could just, hit record and people just talk, go ahead, that's what I'm here for. This is kind of, my purpose, using this platform, the agency's platform, and just having people able to utilize it and share, their stories and reach out to more people. So Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, all that you do. It's really special to be on here and just know that this platform exists, because I didn't previously. So that just added an extra layer on to,
Yeah.
yes, Spokane,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for bringing this here.